Wow. Here we go. Game on, game changer. Everything's a little bit different today. I think we have to rethink what we were talking about in the build-up to this day and this moment. But right now, Jake and Rebecca Harrow, the parents, and I use that term very loosely here with these two, the biological parents, I guess you would say, of little baby Emmanuel have officially been charged in the case. They've been officially charged. California does a little bit differently than the 49 other states around our country, right? So the DA does not have to go to a grand jury in California. In fact, they don't go to a grand jury. What they generally do is they just file charges. The defendants are then entitled to a preliminary hearing, which is very substantive, where you hear about the evidence, and then prosecutors have to prove to the judge that there's enough to bind the case over for trial. Sometimes that is waived, sometimes it isn't. But this is a big moment where the DA has taken the case from investigators, from the sheriffs in San Bernardino and I guess Riverside working together on this, and have said, we are officially charging you, Jake and Rebecca Harrow. We know they're about to appear in court out in Riverside County. But let's do this. I'm going to go through the charges, because there's two charges, and talk about the significance of it, what it means, and put that in context with what has already happened, which was that shocking search on the side of the 60 highway out in California. Like, what you put the pieces together, what does it mean? That's what we're going to talk about. It's a big day. It's a big day in this case. Jake and Rebecca Harrow have been officially charged. I'm Vinny Politan, lead anchor for Court TV. And of course, you can watch me every night from 8 to 10 on Court TV. I'll be on there tonight. But right now, you can watch me on this Vinny Live.
Get ready, get set, let's go.
It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. Get ready to post inside the chat. Get ready for the prosecutor hat. Get set to like and to subscribe. Let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.
All right, let's do it live. Let's get right to it. A lot of moving parts right now. Busy day for me at Court TV. Obviously, we've got these developments. Donna Adelson, the matriarch of her family, also in court on trial, as well as pop superstar Cardi B. So there's a lot going on. We're going to cover it all tonight on my two live programs. Plus, tonight, I'll be doing a live interview with the woman accusing the Kentucky judge of sexual misconduct in the case of the sheriff accused of taking out the judge in his chambers. Live interview with the woman making those accusations. So you don't want to miss that on Vinny Politan Investigates at 9 tonight. At 8 o'clock, obviously, we'll be talking about these developments. We'll be talking about Adelson, Cardi B. There's a lot happening. Plus, after I finish streaming here, I'm going to go on with my good friend from Surviving the Survivor, Joel Waldman. So we'll be talking about Donna Adelson. Make sure when you're done with this stream, you go over to Surviving the Survivor as I go on with him at the end of the court day down in Tallahassee. A lot of moving parts. Plus, I'm still type 1 diabetic, and that's why I'm late, because I had to refill my pump with insulin so I can make it through the rest of the day. Holy cow. Let me put it right up so we can see it, so you can see it, and we can talk about it. Let's see if this is count. Yeah, this is count one. Let's take a look at count one from the official charges, okay? This is what's important. The undersigned, under penalty of perjury upon information believed, declares that this above named defendant, Jake Mitchell Harrow and Rebecca Renee Harrow, committed a violation of Penal Code Section 187, Subdivision A, of felony, in that on or about August 5th through and including August 14th, 2025, in the county of Riverside, state of California. Riverside, that's where they live. That's not where the Big Five is. The defendants did willfully and unlawfully red rum baby doe EH. That's Emmanuel, a human being. Okay. It's just a few sentences, but to me, there's one important one, right? August 5th through and including August 14th tells me two things. Number one, they don't know exactly when this happened. They don't know when this happened. Is that the end of the case? No, not by any means. It's not the end of the case. But it also tells me that there must be some proof of life on August 4th. Someone somewhere provided some evidence that this child was alive on August 4th. Maybe a video, maybe an eyewitness. I know this has been a massive investigation out there, massive investigation. So there must be proof of life. So the timeline begins on August 5th. So it's not necessarily as long as we suspected it might be, a month or so. It looks like it's less. We're talking about 9 days here. So within these 9 days is when it all happened. They don't know exactly when it happened, but they're alleging that it happened in the county of Riverside. Okay, that's significant in all this too, because the whole malarkey about Big Five and Ola Man and all that, that's why San Bernardino was leading this investigation, because that was the initial call. It was an abduction case. They do not believe it's an abduction case. And now they're going by the county of Riverside County, which is where they live. Okay. So if there was any debate as to whether this should have been Riverside or San Bernardino County, that'd be even more troubling for me, because that means they don't even know where this happened, right? If they say the county, we have to choose one or the other. So they may not precisely know, but hopefully that indicates that there's some evidence that this is not a missing person, that this is a homicide. And that evidence was found in Riverside County, likely in the house, perhaps. So I'm seeing a lot of people posting things, and I'll get to it in just a second. I just want to go through these the two counts, and then we'll get right to your questions, because we're going to be on and off much quicker than Sunday night when we were on for almost 3 hours. Much quicker than that. All right. So Baby Doe they're not going to name a juvenile in the information that's filed, right? So they're not going to name that if it's a juvenile, they're not going to use the name. They're going to use the initials, and they refer to the baby as Baby Doe. They know who they're talking about. That's indicated by the initials. Sometimes if there's a John Doe in an indictment, they may not know who that is. Sometimes it's an unknown co-conspirator. But in a Red Rum case, if you're going to charge Red Rum, you have to know who the victim is, right? You need to, because that's an element of the crime. So you have to know who the victim is and that they're no longer alive. So there's proof of life, I think, on August 4th, and there must be some proof of death somewhere in the evidence that they have. Obviously, they're not sharing everything. Okay. Let's put this now in context with what was happening, right? Let's put this in context. And what I want to do, and again, it's going to take me time to find pieces of video, etc., because I'm jumping on here quickly. But in light of what has happened in this case, and when you talk about what's happened, a lot has happened, but it goes without, true explanation as to what. So all this on the side of the road, right? All of this, the defendant himself there, okay? The more that we learn, the less I believe that he confessed based upon these charges. Why am I saying that? Well, if he confessed to something happening to Emmanuel, then you would know the precise date that we're talking about. But they've given a range of dates, which to me would be contrary to him coming clean or him giving some story about what happened, because then they would have a much more precise date in all of it. Also, he's not out at the search pointing to any particular area. is it, and I think it's much more possible that they just brought him out there, that there wasn't a deal. This wasn't done through his attorney, who had already put himself on the record as representing Jake in this investigation. We were wondering about that. So if he's not pointing out, they can, because the sheriff had custody of him, bring him out there, say nothing to him. They can't interrogate him because he has a lawyer. They're not going to, because anything they get from the interrogation is going to be challenged and you wouldn't be able to use if there was a trial. So the more that we've learned today from these charges, it just seems that there was something else that led them to this area. Cell phone data, perhaps cell phone data that put them in this area for a while. And that's why it's a widespread search, and why perhaps they have not necessarily continued that search after not finding anything. This looks like a general area, and it's a random search. The more that I'm seeing, the more that we know. So that's why now, as we get back to the charge here, a range of dates. He didn't provide a specific date, and they didn't find Emmanuel, and he was not helping to find. And in their statement that they released, they were, I mean, the information was very minimal, but it was very direct. Let me put that back up. Because I think that's going to be important in all this, what they exactly said. But they did tell Matt Johnson of Court TV that he was not actively participating in the search, but he was there, which are two completely different things. Did they bring him there to see his reaction? Did they bring him there as a way to shake him up a little bit? I don't know. Did they bring him there to put on a show for Rebecca, believing that this is where Emmanuel was? I mean, it's still possible that he gave them the general area and he can't remember specifically, or he is saying that's what Rebecca told me, that they went to this area and he doesn't know where. That is still possible, right? That's still in play. But a specific confession to me is less likely right now. All right, let me just check. I just have to stay on my phone here a little bit, just to yeah. All right. Because we know things are happening, right? Okay. Oh, let me get back to that piece I have from the sheriff. I believe this was it. A search for Emmanuel Harrow was conducted. Investigators were assisted by cadaver dogs. Jake Harrow was at the location with detectives. Boom. Period. End of it. That's very precise language. He was at the location. So they're just confirming to people, I guess, who didn't see him or saw someone, was wondering, was it him? Yeah, he was there with detectives, but he was not. It says that investigators were assisted by cadaver dogs, but not by Jake Harrow. And Emmanuel is not located. So that's where we are. Let me, again, I'm during the course of this, because I'm getting ready for my show tonight, there's communications coming from Court TV, et cetera. So I just want to stay on top of that while I do this. But the fact that the case has now been taken over by the prosecutor in the case, right? So that takes us to a different level here. Now the clock starts ticking, and there is a burden on prosecutors to demonstrate that there's enough evidence here to hold them over for trial. So they can demand this within a certain amount of days, a preliminary hearing. And the preliminary hearing is like a mini trial in California. In some cases, I've seen them take 3 days. In some cases, I've seen them take an hour. The rules of evidence a little more relaxed, but prosecutors still have to meet that minimal burden that there's enough evidence to bind it over for trial. And in a case where you don't have Emmanuel and we don't know what else they have, it'll be an extremely important hearing. And that's the first time the defense really gets a glimpse into what evidence prosecutors have. Now, if there was any hesitation by prosecutors feeling that they didn't have enough at this point, what they would have done, which we've seen in many other cases, is this: just charge what they charged in the count 2, so you can hang something over their heads and maybe keep them locked up, which is the above named defendants committed a violation of Penal Code 148.5, a misdemeanor in the count of Riverside. The defendants did willfully and unlawfully report to a police officer, deputy sheriff, or member of the California Highway Patrol that a felony and misdemeanor had been committed, knowing that report to be false. So this is a false reporting. They've also been charged with the false reporting. It is a misdemeanor. But in many cases like this, where they're still gathering the evidence for the red rum charges, they will charge false reporting. They did that with that woman down in Orlando, Florida. Maybe something, some sort of child neglect charge, like you don't have custody of your child. So obviously you can allege that they've neglected their child. Like if the child is missing, you don't have your child, a 7-month-old, mom and dad need to have. So, and they also did that with the children with Daybell. When she couldn't produce the children, there was an order to produce. And that's how they first held her while they were building up the case and getting the evidence together. But it's good. There is good. I would take from this, the good news for prosecutors is that they believe they have enough to go forward at this point. So that means there was some success in their investigation, whether it's physical evidence, digital evidence, eyewitness testimony. It could be any of or all the above to build and prove their case. The fact that they just lied about where their baby is will not be enough. You won't meet your burden. You won't. Disproving an abduction won't be enough to prove the red rum, okay? It just won't be enough. So the first hurdle is getting it bound over for trial, but it's California. You can request a speedy trial. That's what OJ did. Like OJ, preliminary hearing, speedy trial, and boom, boom, boom. That trial happened within months and then lasted for 9 months. You can request that. You can demand that. Most defendants don't. Most of them don't. They'll waive their speedy trial rights. Here you're going to have opposing counsel. There'll be pretrial litigation about whether this should be one trial or separate trials. There's going to be a lot that will happen here. We shall see. All right, there's a good conversation taking place in the chat. But I wanted to make sure I got this out there. Count 1, range of dates. Tells me no confession, likely no confession. Also tells me they don't know when this happened. You give yourself, you go from last proof of life to when you know the child is no longer, the child is now missing. And they did the same thing in the Cal City toddler case. And you can win the case. Cal City, they never found the kids. Cal City, they didn't know exactly when it happened. So you can prove your case. All right. Now, still checking in to see what the heck is going on out there. Let's see. What do we have here? Stars from Sandy Espinosa on Facebook. Thank you so much, Sandy. On Facebook. What did you say? You had a little comment here, right? Long time a fan of yours, Vinny. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and supporting. All right. Let's scroll through here. All right. So this is the breaking news is the charges are official. So, everything that was leading up to today, the clock was ticking, right? It's 48 hours. I guess it's business days out in California from arrest till you've got to formally charge or you've got to release them. So they chose the DA to formally charge today. And that's what you're looking at. The first count, one of two counts. They're not going to get bond. They're not getting out on bonds. So you don't have to worry about that. But I think the developments that will happen today as they go into court, they're apprised of the charges, they're apprised of their rights, and then we'll find out officially, is Vincent Hughes going to be in on the case now, officially on the record for this particular charge in this case, and will she be appointed counsel? Now, if they both say no and we don't have any money, although I do think they do have money, they will then both apply for for a free attorney, which means the public defender can only represent one. So then there'll have to be an assigned counsel. So there's no conflict there. So the same organization, whether it's the public defender's office or a law firm, cannot represent two defendants in the same case. They need separate counsel because their rights and their interest will absolutely conflict in this case. Because if this is red rum, do you think two parents ganged up on the 7-month-old? I don't think so. Unless they were both negligent in somehow taking care of the child, hot car, something like that. But if it's, as I've been saying, shaking baby or some moment of rage or just ongoing abuse, it's going to be one versus the other. So it's going to conflict. Again, going back to him on the scene, still bizarre, but may have been a crafty move by investigators. But you look at this, how spread out they are and where they're looking. They don't know exactly where they're looking, right? They don't know exactly where they're looking. And there was no follow-up to this search. It's a half-day search, generally in the area. There's a helicopter. I don't know if that's their helicopter or the news. But if you look at the terrain here, it's a little rugged, but how far in are you going to go, right? How far in would you go if this was the area? I don't know if you're going to bring your car down this road because it doesn't seem like anyone's bringing cars down this road. And we can talk about whether or not this is or isn't the place. Cadaver dogs found no scent. So is this just investigators going on what they perceived as a lead? Maybe it was a tip they got, a phone tip, anonymous caller. Maybe it was cell phone data. Maybe it was something in a text message. I'm going to go to some of the comments here. Vinny from Ashley Grimes, 1483. Some guy sent a pic of that area. They were searching the night before the search to Jake's phone, telling him his days were numbered, basically. And the cops have Jake's phone. Like Vincent Hughes, the attorney, said, yeah, he gave it up and he gave up the password as well. So. Nico Diaz taking a alternative look at this. Cops in California frame people until they make mistakes and get caught. Okay. This is a tough frame job, this one. So the news is they believe they can prove the abduction theory was a false report, number one. And the news, number two, is that they have a range. They don't have the specific date. And to me, that's not troubling, but it demonstrates to me where they are in the case. It demonstrates to me where they are in the case. All right. Let's see. Going through some of the comments. Going through the comments here. Oh, Ashley Bouchard, one of our mods from the mod squad. Speaking of cops training people, Proctor was in court today. Yeah, Proctor was in his in front of the Civil Service Board, I think, trying to get his job back. A lot of things happening today all at once. A lot of things happening all at once. All right. So this was a show of force when they went for the arrest. They got the vehicles and the caravan and the search. And at that point of the arrest, the sheriff believed he had enough. And the sheriff is handing the evidence over to the DA. Then the DA is going to analyze it and say, okay, can I bring this in front of a judge and bind it over for trial? But more importantly, can I put this in front of a jury and prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt? They have to believe that's where they are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be bringing these charges at this point. But I wonder if one is going to flip. And think about what that's like the moment that you decide if you're going to flip. Because you're not walking away. You are admitting it. There's no chance of being found not guilty. You've got to admit your role in all of it, and you're going to have to do time, and you have to do real time. Right? But in the alternative, you could be in there till the end of your time. So I can never get into the mind of a defendant, because it's like, you did something horrific, so you're just different than the rest of us to begin with. So I don't think my analysis of your thought process or your strategy is relevant. They're just, and you look at this guy, as you take a look at him here being arrested with his history. He got away with it once. He literally got away with it once. That baby's life was altered forever. And he gets slapped on the wrist for it. That's empowering. That's why when I was a prosecutor, it would drive me crazy when I would go into court and I'd have like a criminal history for a defendant that's like this long, and then the judge puts them back out on probation, giving them another chance because they're always begging for another chance. And it undermines any sense of deterrence in our system, specific deterrence for an individual. What would deter him from abusing another baby if he abused one to the point that he did, and basically nothing happened to him? Nothing happened to him. It's just another day, the day at the park. Deterrence comes in two forms. There is specific deterrence to deter an offender from doing it again. And that didn't apply to him. There's also general deterrence to deter the rest of society from doing it, which is probably, from my perspective, one of the strongest arguments for real penalties, like real penalties, where if you use certain type of weapon in an offense, you do real time, and word spreads that you better not get caught with a weapon. And maybe people do things without weapons, and some of these crimes become less deadly. General deterrence. All right. Let me check. I'm checking my feed. All right. All right. Oh, by the way, we have to pay tribute, folks. Have to pay tribute because this live stream doesn't just happen. I didn't just teach myself how to do all this stuff. Get so much help, so much help, especially from our world famous, better than all the rest, Mod Squad.
We are the Mod Squad, keeping order in the chat. The Mod Squad, spotting trolls who attack. Oh, Gen X is ready and on the scene. Frankie Biggs making sure they're keeping it clean. And Jennifer Soubey telling haters don't be so mean. And Ashley Bouchard on top of our Facebook screen. We are the Mod Squad, cleaning up the mess. The Mod Squad, simply the best. The Mod Squad.
Give it up for your Mod Squad, folks. Give it up for your Mod Squad. Simply the best. Okay, I got a great question here from Sapphire Ring. Sapphire Ring 147. Sapphire Ring 147. Can the jury hear about his history? That'll be up to the judge. Prosecutors want to use it. That is part of the information that was filed. That was a part that I did not screenshot, though. But prosecutors will fight to get the history in front of this jury. Now, why do they do that? Well, because once the jury hears that, he's not getting the benefit of the doubt. But it is relevant. It shows sort of a pattern of abuse of babies. We're talking. People want to call this a child abuse case. This is baby abuse. That is sick. That is beyond sick. This is a baby. Any of you who are parents or godparents or grandparents or uncles or aunts, think about when you held that baby in your arms, whether it was the first time or the 500th time. How nervous were you every single time? Because you wanted to make sure nothing happened to that baby. Nothing. You're afraid you lay down, you put the baby up here and you don't want to fall asleep because all of that. You're like almost unrealistically afraid, right? Because you're going to do everything to protect that child, but you're still worried about it. And then to do this to not one, but two children, how could you even do it to one in any moment? How does that even become a possibility? And that's why it's difficult to treat, especially him. He's got a documented history of this. You can't get into his mind or understand his actions and what he does and how he reacts and you just can't, because the mind is so different of someone who could do that. Way different. They're not like you and I. They're not like the rest of us. But yes, the history, prosecutors in California, I presume you need to put it in the information that you intend to present that information. And that'll be, again, another one of those issues that will be litigated before the trial. The other side will make their arguments. The prosecution will make their arguments. And then the judge, the one who's in charge of the law of the case, must decide whether or not that evidence will be admissible and whether or not the jury will get to hear it. And if they get to hear it, in what form will they hear it? Will it be some sort of watered down form? How will that information get to the jury if the judge allows it? So it would be very persuasive. Linda Howard, 454. How could she marry him knowing he was a... Now, this is my guess on how it went. He blamed his prior wife. She was evil. She was the bad one. It wasn't me, it was her. And I got wrapped up in it because she's so bad. And that's what he probably told her. And his case did not wrap up. It took 5 years. So I think they were already together by the time he had to enter his guilty plea and get slapped on the wrist. But that's it. I mean, he's probably, taking advantage of his good looks to entice her and then explain his legal troubles off. Maybe he lied to her, or maybe she knew going in. Maybe she has the same mindset. Maybe she was desperate, or maybe she thought she could fix him. All right, Gen X, letting everybody know, another one of our great mods in the Mod Squad, letting everyone know that I'll be on Surviving the Survivor at around 5-ish or so. I thought it was at 5:20. But I'll have to check. I thought I was going on there 5:20. But anywho, let's see if we get some more. And we've got Nancy for hearts. Nancy, look at her. She is no better than he is. Common sense investigator Linda, some women don't look things up. That's why it's important for all women to do their own investigation on anyone they're dating. Or you contact the common sense investigator. Say, listen, I'm going on a date. He seems really nice, but common sense investigator, can you just ensure that he is okay? What a great business that would be, right? Just one call, that's all. Do a quick little check some CCH, check some social media, do a little bit of digging. Maybe put a tail on him for 48 hours, stake him out. Back in the olden days, you couldn't. These days, I don't know. Like if you're dating these days or getting into a new relationship, it seems like you could do a lot of background research on whoever you're dating. I don't know what that's like, but I'm sure you could. I mean, when I cover a new story, that's the first thing we do. Do they have an Instagram? Do they have a Facebook? Are they on TikTok? Are they on X? What are they saying? Who do they know? And you find out a lot. Nancy Brace, 1233, wearing my person of interest t-shirt today. Check it out in the merch store. Oh, what a great idea. What a great reminder. Nancy Brace, thank you so much. Wearing some of the Vinny Originale true crime merch from my true crime merch shop.
Shirt and a hoodie, a beach towel and a mug. A new design from Vinny is better than a drug. True crime merch, you know he did it. True crime merch, mark the exhibit. True crime merch, we hate Casey. True crime merch from Vinny Originale. Our tangent stuff is great, unlike any others. Buy it now, don't wait. Perfect for all you mothers. True crime merch, allegedly. True crime merch, stepped on a bee. True crime merch, it's not free. True crime merch from Vinny Originale.
There you go. Big thank you, Nancy Brace. Thank you so much. All right. And Bullhorn Betty's back with us today. Vinny, update. They're continuing. Can you verify? Thanks for all you do. Ooh. Yeah, we'll verify it tonight on my show. I can't do it as I speak here unless I'm getting a note. I'm checking from our field, but I'm not getting anything yet. But that would not be shocking if the first appearance was continued for whatever reason. But thank you, Bullhorn Betty. I'm surprised Bullhorn's not out there, or maybe she is. I don't know. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Susie Catherine, 8570, just angry at women who have kids and don't deserve them. That's the truth. But like like in the Madeline Soto case, there was blame and rightfully so, right, at Jen Soto for what she did. But whoever the primary actor is, I always believe is the most responsible. But if you are the parent, here you have two parents, so it's equal responsibility. There's no additional responsibility on a mother if there's a mother and a father. If there's just a mother in the picture, like in Jen Soto's case, then she has much more of an obligation to step up and protect that child. Thank you, Susie Catherine, 8570. That's funny because Susie Catherine, 8567, was on the chat last week. Only kidding. All right. And Stan Strong 101 says they're having a conference. Right? Yeah, they're having a conference. This is interesting. Connie Cruz, 8462. In my opinion, the judge from the past offense did not hold him accountable and should be fired. That's interesting. I'd have to dig a little deeper into it, but there is nuance involved in how these deals go down, right? From a prosecutor's perspective, I was a prosecutor. When you give a really good deal, it's either to get information on someone else that you feel is more culpable or the weakness of your own case. Right? You feel like your case is weak for whatever reason. You've got a problem with witnesses. You've got a problem with evidence, whatever it is. Let's see. So it's not that simple. Now, sometimes, and a judge always holds the final card and can reject a plea agreement if the judge believes it's too lenient. But in reality, most judges won't do that because they want to clean cases off their docket, number one. And number two, they trust that the prosecutor would only give a deal that is very lenient if they had to. And that if the judge rejected the deal and made them go to trial, the defendant or the case might go away and the defendant may be found not guilty and not held accountable at all, which is the reality of what happens. Sometimes, though, a prosecutor will ask for, let's say, hypothetical, not this case, but hypothetical, ask for 10 years, and a judge may only give 5. And in those cases, then you clearly can blame the judge if it's someone who gets a lenient sentence who doesn't deserve it. So I'd have to dig into the nuance of how that first case went down. I have not done that yet. By the way, Renee Clements sent stars and said, prior to arrests, is it possible that with all the social media and attention and people going to locations even ahead of the police department getting there because everything happening so fluidly, could it hurt the case in any way? No, I think the social media impact and pressure will help this case. It won't hurt it. It will only help it. I think the spotlight, the fact that everyone started talking about these parents, the fact that they were outed so quickly meant that there's going to be more resources put on the case. Okay. You hate to see like a case that doesn't get the spotlight, not get the resources. They should still get the resources, but this case guaranteed to have the extra resources. It becomes a priority. So I don't believe it hurts at all. I think beating the drum only helps the case. Now, if someone is out there and finds something, look at I always go back to it. I hate it, but the case down in Orlando, Kaylee Marie Anthony, the little girl went missing. Her mother found not guilty at trial. That was a case. If that case happened today, like it was still huge, but it was, Nancy Grace that was driving that story, right, across the nation. It was really pre-social media extravaganza, right? Twitter was just starting. Things weren't where they are now. in the world of true crime. I believe that child would have been found earlier because Roy Kronk did find that child. Roy Kronk went to police, but police did nothing. If Roy Kronk had posted something or said something, there would have been a million live streamers in the woods and they would have found the baby. So those are my thoughts. Sandy N. Spinoza sent stars and asked, quick question, Vinny, in California, can husbands and wives be able to testify against each other? P.S. Make sure you get something to eat. Yes, thank you. Okay, so everyone's going to be wondering about spousal immunity or spousal, not immunity. All right, I got to check my blood sugar. If I'm losing words, that means I'm usually going a little bit low. It's starting to dip. No. Here's what happens. Communications between spouses are protected, but not in the case of dealing with harm to children. Not protected. Also, that protection can be waived by either party. So if there's communication between husband and wife and husband decides to tell people, husband can. It's just that if husband and wife don't want to reveal those communications, they can't be compelled to. But if they voluntarily reveal it, it's all admissible. Does that make sense? So when we talk about this spousal privilege, the communications are privileged if both husband and wife retain that privilege. If either one gives it up, then it's no longer privilege. It's open game. And privilege does not apply to harm to children. So hope that answers that question. Let me get to a couple more of these. And then I think I got, let's see. Melbourne, Australia, justice for Emmanuel. Absolutely. 6:56 a.m. down there. Thank you so much. Raquel Edwards, 3366. Thank you so much. All right, I got to check something here. Checking an email. Just want to see if I've got any other information that I can reveal at this moment. Wow. Moving slow. Wow, this is weird. It's acting weird. All right, I can't even. Frustrating. Okay. One moment. All right, I gotta get out to that other stream in a minute here. All right. All right. Sorry for the delay, folks, but I'm on my phone checking communications here. All right. And one more thing. I don't know why this is acting so funny today. There we go. I got that done. Back to you. Okay. Thank you. Let me get to the next comment. And it is from 1111 True Crime. Vinny, is this the same Rebecca from 2009 that faked an illness of a baby and scammed tons of money, but it turned out there was no baby, but a real to life doll? I know people have looked at that. I think she's from a different part of the country with a similar name. I looked at the pictures. They did not look like the same person. But I would not completely dismiss it yet because her look has changed a lot. If you look at some of the photos. But I do not believe it's the same person because I did take a look at that quickly and it looked like they were from different parts of the country. So I think, I don't think they're the same person, but I would not rule it out 100% in a scenario like this. But this didn't turn into a scam scenario, right? It looked like a way to cover up a crime more so than a scam for profit. All right. Let's get to the next comment. Thank you so much, 1111 True Crime. But I know folks have been looking at that, and I don't think we should dismiss it yet. But what I saw initially didn't seem like it matched up. WW8599, the judge gave JH the standard first-time California offense sentence. She didn't look at the medical file for the child. That would be troubling. That would be troubling. I'll tell you the way sentencing used to work when I was a prosecutor. It was on Friday. I'd get a stack this high of cases, and the judge would sentence one after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. And I always wondered how deep into the case did the judge dive? Like, that's your job, whether it's you or through your law clerk and the help that you have. To me, sentencing is it's important on both ends of it, right? You don't want to punish someone more severely that could be redeemed or is redeemable. By the same token, you don't want to under punish someone who needs to be sent a message and needs to be deterred. And you can't be a robot while sentencing. I think each individual, each charge, each scenario, the judge needs to understand. But it's also incumbent upon the prosecutor to point all of this stuff out. You can't leave it all on the judge. Prosecutors have a job to do, and they need to make their case and make their arguments. So again, I have to do a deep dive to see exactly how that went down, because it's different it can be different in every scenario and situation. They're not interchangeable pieces. For those of you just joining us, I'll just jump back on here. Officially charged, 187 subdivision A, red rum of a baby doe, which is EH, which is Emmanuel, in the county of Riverside, which is where the house is. But between August 5th and August 14th, they don't know the date. If they did, they would put it in there. If they knew exactly what happened and when it happened, it would be part of this. Because you can always modify it by saying on or about. Like if you believe something happened on the 5th, but maybe it happened on late night on the 4th, you know what I mean? Or early morning on the 6th, you can write on or about, and it's still legally valid. But here you're giving yourself the 5th to the 14th because you don't know. Because you don't know. And if you don't know, that means that you did not get a confession per se from Jake Harrow. And presumably he didn't get some sort of a deal, unless that's why there is a delay here. We'll see. We'll see. All right, folks. So I hate to breaking news and run, but that's what we do. That's what we do. That's what this thing of ours is all about. So this was the big story out in California today. Tonight on my program, we'll get the latest from this. Matt Johnson's on the ground out there, so I'll get the latest from him tonight on my show. We'll also get the latest from Julie Janae, who was down in Florida at the trial of Donna Adelson. Speaking of Adelson, as soon as I stop here, I'm going to jump over with Joel Waldman on Surviving the Survivor. live stream to talk about the Donna Adelson trial. I mean, wow, what a case that is. Also, Cardi B, by the way, supposed to take the stand today. I got to check my notes, see if she took the stand yet. But if she does, you'll see the testimony on my show, 8 o'clock on Court TV. And then at 9 o'clock, Vinnie Politan Investigates. We're going to take you to Kentucky. The sheriff who ended or unalived the judge in his own chambers. We've got video of that. Now there's allegations against the judge of inappropriate sexual conduct involving defendants and inmates and women. One of the accusers will join me live on the show. You don't want to miss that at 9. All right. Let me see. I think I got a couple more to get to here real quick. Sha Na Na too. Always top dog. Thank you, sir. By the way, I have a Sha Na Na story. Bowser, when I was at Court TV initially in New York, Bowser reached out to me because there were some cases in front of my father who was a federal judge, and he wanted to talk to me about it. So that was kind of cool, talking to Bowser. Love Sha Na Na. Trippy hippie chicks. Could these independent reporters affect the case or cause charges to be dropped, or can they be charged for impeding an investigation? If they interfere, if they hide evidence, if they, do something like that, obstruction could be charged. But if you are covering a case, whether you're with an official organization or if you're a citizen journalist, there's no difference. It's all First Amendment conduct here. So the fact that you don't work for an organization does not undermine your level of protections in the First Amendment. It's all the same. It's all the same. Could they affect the case? I don't know. Only if they come across evidence and disturb evidence. That's the only way I could see it. If they're speaking to people and the interviews become part of the evidence in a case, perhaps, just like in the Karen Reed trial, you had the documentary people, that evidence, those interviews were used against Karen Reed. They didn't work, but it was used. So that's how it can affect the case. Interviews, video you have can be subpoenaed. That's how it can affect it. If you actually do something to disturb a scene or do something to a piece of evidence, yeah, that can be bad. But my guess is most independent reporters or reporters from a big organization like Court TV, if you come across evidence, you're going to stop and say, oh, that's evidence. Let me call 911. And in the meantime, I will videotape it. That's how it should work. And I've seen it work like that. Thank you, Trippy Hippie Chicks. Number 5. All right. So for those of you joining for the very, 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 very first time, you may or may not know that I am a type 1 diabetic. And each quarter on the show, we have a contest. Whoever can guess my blood sugar correctly the most times during that quarter wins a lovely, lovely gift from the Vinnie Originale True Crime merch shop. So it is that time.
Here's a type 1. He's type 1. His pancreas is on first. He has diabetes, type 1 juvenile diabetes. And so it's time to guess, is more or less, what's his blood sugar? What's Vinny's blood sugar?
And I'm wondering, is that the same 200?
Under 70, he gets like 10.
Congratulations to Alpha Houghton, R624P. 108 is the correct number. I have to write it down now. I've got these all over a bunch of different pieces of paper. So disorganized. R6T4P. 108 on the 26th. All right. Keep tuning in. Keep guessing. Whoever gets the most right in the corner, you get a lovely prize from the Vinnie Originale True Crime merch shop. Big thanks to everyone for watching and joining the conversation. Sorry, I have to cut it short, but I'm going over to Surviving the Survivor with Joel Waldman. We're talking about the trial of Donna Adelson. Make sure as soon as this ends, you go over to Surviving the Survivor. In the meantime, folks, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you at 8 o'clock tonight on Court TV. Thanks again, of course, to our incredible mod squad, best in the business. As always, folks, please don't forget to hug the kids.
Say goodbye. Thank you for watching Vinny Live. We'll be back, but I don't know when. We hope that you will watch again. Vinny Live. It's Vinny Live. Whoa, it's Vinny Live. To our awesome mods. Thank you for those super chats. Please hit the like and do subscribe. Let's do it again on Vinny Live. Now before you go, just one more thing. Please post below, say anything. Before you go, just one more thing. Please post below, say anything.